There comes a time in life when you must decide to stop chasing validation from others and start building it within yourself. You were never created to beg for love, attention, or respect. You were designed to walk in the fullness of your worth. The world may try to define you, people may overlook you, and circumstances may break you down, but the strength that God placed inside you was never meant to be shaken by rejection. When you learn to become mentally strong, you stop living for the approval of others and start living with divine assurance. This sermon reminds you that your power is not in what you receive from others, but in what you choose to believe about yourself. You have everything it takes to stand tall, stay grounded, and never beg for what you deserve, because strength begins where dependence ends. Mental strength begins where approval ends. The moment you stop chasing the applause of others is the moment you start walking in your true power. Many people spend their lives trying to earn validation from those who were never assigned to understand their purpose. They try to mold themselves into something they were never meant to be, just to feel seen or accepted. But real strength is built in silence, in those seasons when you decide that your worth doesn't depend on who claps for you. When you stop needing people's approval to feel complete, you start discovering a level of confidence that no one can take away. Mental strength isn't about being cold or distant. It's about being secure in who you are even when others don't approve. You cannot build a strong mind while constantly seeking the validation of others. Approval is an addiction, and like all addictions, it leaves you empty once the temporary high fades. When your peace depends on someone else's opinion, your emotions will always be unstable. But when your confidence is rooted in truth, your mind becomes unshakable. You begin to see that you were created with purpose, and that purpose cannot be confirmed or denied by people. It was already established before anyone had an opinion about you. The moment you realize this, you break free from the mental prison of people-pleasing. Strength begins when you set boundaries with your need for approval. When you no longer allow opinions to determine your direction, you reclaim your focus. Every time you choose peace over pleasing, you reinforce your mental resilience. You start moving differently. You speak differently. You no longer over-explain, over-give, or over-apologize to keep someone's attention. You understand that true confidence is quiet because it doesn't need to be proven. You learn to rest in the truth that you are enough, not because someone said so, but because you finally believe it. The journey to mental strength is not easy. It requires you to confront the insecurities that make you seek external validation in the first place. You'll have to face the fear of being misunderstood, the discomfort of being alone, and the pain of being rejected. But in that process, you'll also discover something sacred: peace. You'll find that solitude is not loneliness, it's where strength is born. When you can sit with yourself and still feel whole, you've reached a level of power that approval can never give. People will come and go. Their opinions will change with the wind. But if your identity is rooted in something deeper, in truth, in purpose, in faith, then no rejection can destroy you. Mental strength allows you to walk through life unbothered by noise, unaffected by comparison, and unmoved by opinions. You stop begging for love because you already walk in it. You stop chasing attention because your worth doesn't require an audience. You stop seeking respect because your confidence demands it without words. Becoming mentally strong is about learning that peace of mind is more valuable than people's approval. When you no longer need anyone to validate your worth, you become unstoppable. The power that once came from others' acceptance now comes from within. And when that shift happens, you no longer live as a reflection of others' opinions. You live as a reflection of purpose. Protecting your peace is your greatest power. The world will constantly try to pull you into chaos, into arguments, comparisons, and emotional exhaustion, but your strength lies in choosing peace over noise. When you protect your peace, you're not running away from reality. You're guarding your energy, your focus, and your joy from being drained by people and situations that don't deserve it. Peace is not a luxury. It's a necessity for clarity, purpose, and strength. It's the foundation that keeps your mind stable when everything around you feels unstable. There comes a point when you must stop fighting battles that don't belong to you. Every time you engage in unnecessary drama, you lose a piece of your peace. Protecting it means knowing when to walk away, when to be silent, and when to say, "This isn't worth my energy." Your peace is your sanctuary, the quiet space where wisdom lives and where your spirit can breathe. When you let others disturb that space, you hand them control over your emotions. But when you guard it, you take your power back. Protecting your peace also means setting boundaries, not as a form of rejection, but as an act of self-respect. You can love people and still say no. You can care and still keep distance. You can forgive and still move forward without reopening doors that God has closed. Boundaries don't mean you're heartless. They mean you finally love yourself enough to stop tolerating what steals your peace. Every boundary you set becomes a declaration that your mind, heart, and time are valuable. It's easy to mistake business for purpose and noise for progress, but peace teaches you to slow down and listen. The louder the world gets, the more intentional you must be about guarding your quiet. Peace is where discernment grows. It's where you hear divine guidance clearly, free from the opinions and distractions of others. The reason so many people feel lost is because they've allowed the noise of the world to drown out their inner stillness. But when you cultivate peace, you create space for truth to rise above the chaos. Sometimes protecting your peace means walking alone. It means letting go of friendships that drain you, habits that distract you, and conversations that unsettle you. You can't carry peace while clinging to things that keep you anxious. It's not about arrogance. It's about alignment. You're aligning yourself with what nourishes your soul instead of what depletes it. When you stop entertaining unnecessary battles, your spirit finds rest, your thoughts become clearer, and your decisions become wiser. The enemy of peace is often your own attachment to what should have been left behind. You can't have peace while holding on to everything that hurt you. You can't heal in the same environment that broke you. Protecting your peace requires courage. The courage to walk away without guilt, to remain calm when others provoke you, and to choose silence when everything in you wants to react. That kind of strength doesn't happen overnight. It's built through discipline and awareness. True peace doesn't depend on circumstances. It's not about having a perfect life. It's about having a stable mind in an imperfect world. It's the ability to say, even if everything falls apart, I will not lose myself. That's real power, the kind that can't be shaken by opinions, rejection, or disappointment. When you learn to protect your peace, you no longer react to every storm. You stand still and let it pass because you know who you are and where your strength comes from. Protecting your peace is an act of spiritual maturity. It means you're no longer ruled by emotions but guided by wisdom. You stop chasing people's validation and start prioritizing your well-being. You learn that peace is not found in the absence of problems, but in the presence of balance. Every time you choose calm over chaos, grace over anger, and silence over noise, you're stepping into a higher version of yourself, one that is grounded, unshaken, and full of quiet strength. Rejection is redirection, not your reflection. When someone walks away, when an opportunity closes, or when life denies you something you thought you needed, it's easy to believe you failed or that you weren't good enough. But rejection is not a mirror showing you your flaws. It's a compass pointing you toward a better path. Every no you've received has been a setup for a greater wise. The pain you felt when you were overlooked was never meant to define you. It was meant to refine you. What feels like a door closing in your face is often a divine hand guiding you to something far beyond what you imagined. Rejection hurts because it strikes at the core of your identity. It makes you question your worth, your abilities, and your place in the world. But what if the very thing you're grieving over was actually saving you from something that would have broken you? Sometimes rejection is protection. You may not see it in the moment, but time reveals that what you lost was never meant to last. The people who left weren't part of your destiny. They were part of your development. Their absence created the space for your growth. Rejection teaches resilience. It pushes you to depend less on external validation and more on inner conviction. When you face rejection and keep standing, something powerful happens inside you. You stop seeking acceptance from the wrong places and start finding strength in your purpose. Every time you recover from a disappointment, you build endurance. Every time you rise after being ignored or criticized, you build character. And every time you trust the process instead of fighting it, you grow stronger in faith and wisdom. One of the most freeing realizations in life is understanding that not everyone is meant to recognize your value. Some people are blind to your light because they're not assigned to walk your path. Their inability to see your worth doesn't decrease it. It just means your light is meant to shine elsewhere. You were never meant to fit everywhere. You were meant to fit where your purpose aligns. Rejection redirects you toward the places, people, and opportunities where your gifts can flourish without compromise. Think of every closed door as a divine act of redirection. You may have prayed for something that never came, but that unanswered prayer might be the reason you're still standing. Sometimes the things you think you need are too small for the greatness inside you. Rejection removes what's comfortable so you can reach for what's destined. It forces you to evolve, to dream bigger, and to move beyond familiar spaces. You cannot step into a new level while holding on to what was never meant for you. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" start asking, "What is this teaching me?" Every disappointment carries a message. Sometimes it's teaching you patience, sometimes discernment, sometimes self-worth. The more you learn from rejection, the less power it has over you. You begin to see it not as punishment, but as preparation. You realize that every delay, every denial, every detour was working in your favor, shaping your mindset, strengthening your faith, and building your endurance for what's next. Rejection also reveals your true source of identity. When you stop letting people's acceptance define you, you anchor yourself in truth. You stop shrinking for approval and start growing in purpose. You stop begging to be seen and start walking in confidence. You no longer need to convince anyone of your value because you understand it deeply within. Rejection can no longer break you because it no longer defines you. When you embrace rejection as redirection, peace replaces bitterness, gratitude replaces regret. You start seeing closed doors as blessings in disguise. Every rejection becomes a reminder that something better is ahead, something that matches your worth, your purpose, and your destiny. And once you understand that, you'll never see rejection the same way again. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. Every time you allow someone to cross a boundary without addressing it, you silently give them permission to continue. The way others handle you is often a reflection of what you've allowed, not what you deserve. When you continually accept disrespect, inconsistency, or neglect, you train people to believe that's all you'll tolerate. But when you set a standard, you create an atmosphere of respect that demands to be honored without you having to say much. People quickly learn how to value what values itself. There's power in realizing that you set the tone for how others interact with you. You don't have to beg for kindness or chase after loyalty. You establish it through your behavior, your words, and your boundaries. When you carry yourself with self-respect, you attract people who mirror that energy. When you let go of your fear of losing others, you stop compromising your peace just to keep their company. The truth is, some people will only change when they lose access to you. Sometimes walking away is louder than any explanation. Teaching people how to treat you starts with self-awareness. You must first understand what you value, what you need, and what you will no longer accept. Too many people confuse patience with passivity and end up being drained in relationships that only take from them. It's not your job to fix someone's disrespect. It's your responsibility to remove yourself from it. When you recognize your worth, you stop negotiating it. Respect isn't something you earn by pleasing others. It's something you demand by honoring yourself. Every time you say yes when your heart is screaming no, you chip away at your confidence. Every time you make excuses for mistreatment, you teach others that your forgiveness has no boundaries. But love doesn't mean endurance of pain. Forgiveness doesn't mean continued access. You can forgive someone and still protect your peace. You can love people deeply and still create distance when their presence becomes toxic. Boundaries are not walls. They're gates that protect what's sacred within you. Many people fear that setting boundaries will make them seem cold or unkind, but the truth is, boundaries are acts of love, both for yourself and others. They help maintain clarity in relationships. They show others what is acceptable and what isn't, When you communicate your boundaries with grace but firmness, you allow only healthy connections to thrive. The people who truly value you will never be offended by your limits, they'll respect them. Those who walk away because of your boundaries were never meant to stay. When you begin teaching people how to treat you, you'll notice a shift in your circle. Some will adjust and rise to meet your new level of self-respect. Others will fall away because they can no longer manipulate your openness. That's not loss, it's alignment. The higher your standards, the fewer the people, but the purer the connections. Peaceful relationships are born from mutual respect, and mutual respect grows when both sides understand the power of boundaries. You can't control how others behave, but you can control how you respond. You can control who has access to you, who gets your energy, and who earns your time. When you stop tolerating disrespect, you make room for those who will love you right. The moment you decide that mistreatment is no longer acceptable is the moment you shift from victim to victor. You reclaim your voice, your worth, and your peace. Teaching others how to treat you isn't about pride. It's about protection. It's about honoring the value that God placed inside you. You are not required to shrink to make others comfortable. You are not obligated to stay where you are consistently diminished. The way you love yourself sets the example for how others should love you. When you raise your standards, you don't lose real connections. You attract better ones. Real love never demands you to shrink to be accepted. Love that is genuine will never ask you to silence your truth, hide your strength, or become less than who you were created to be. The moment someone makes you feel like you must dim your light to keep their approval, that's not love, that's control. Real love celebrates your growth, your individuality, and your divine purpose. It doesn't compete with your light, it complements it. The love that's meant for you will never feel like a burden. It will feel like freedom. Too often, people settle for conditional love, the kind that praises them when they conform and punishes them when they stand tall. But the truth is, any love that costs you your peace, your voice, or your identity is too expensive. Real love doesn't require you to beg for attention or to chase after validation. It sees your worth without you having to prove it. It allows you to be fully yourself with all your flaws, your dreams, and your fire, and still says, you are enough. When you find yourself constantly walking on eggshells around someone, afraid to be honest or authentic, you've already lost yourself trying to keep them. Love that demands silence is not love. It's fear disguised as affection. Real love allows honesty. It allows growth. It allows space to breathe and become. It doesn't punish you for evolving, it grows with you. It understands that relationships are not about control, but connection. You don't have to make yourself small to make others feel secure. The right people will feel inspired by your strength, not intimidated by it. There will always be people who are uncomfortable with your confidence, your voice, or your boldness. That's because your presence exposes their insecurities. But you were never meant to shrink to fit into their comfort zones. You were created to stand tall, to walk in purpose, and to love from a place of wholeness, not fear. Real love is built on mutual respect, where both people can shine without dimming each other's light. It's not about ownership, it's about partnership. When you settle for love that limits you, you teach your heart to survive instead of thrive. You start compromising little by little, your dreams, your opinions, your boundaries, until you wake up one day wondering who you've become. But love should never feel like losing yourself. It should be a mirror that reflects the best parts of you, even the ones you've forgotten. Real love pushes you toward purpose, not away from it. It lifts you higher, not holds you hostage. Sometimes the reason you feel unseen is because you're surrounded by people who only recognize the version of you that benefits them. They love your softness, but not your strength. They admire your loyalty, but despise your independence. But love that's authentic will never fear your evolution. It will honor your process and celebrate your growth. It will meet you where you are, but never ask you to stay small. Walking away from love that diminishes you doesn't mean you're cold. It means you finally understand your worth. You can love someone deeply and still realize they can't go where you're growing. You can care and still choose peace over chaos. When you stop begging for love that drains you, you make room for love that fills you, the kind that heals, empowers, and brings out your best self. Real love makes you better, not smaller. It doesn't require you to hide your power. It helps you use it. It doesn't guilt you for shining. It cheers you on. The love that's meant for you will recognize you without you having to explain yourself. It will see your light, not as a threat, but as a gift. And when you finally experience that kind of love, one that lets you be free, whole, and unapologetically you'll realize that anything less was never love at all. Faith fortifies your mind against emotional dependency. When your foundation is built on faith, your peace no longer depends on who stays or who leaves, on what happens or what doesn't. Faith becomes the anchor that keeps you steady when everything else feels unstable. It gives you clarity in confusion, strength in heartbreak, and hope in disappointment. Emotional dependency fades when you realize that your stability doesn't come from people or possessions. It comes from your connection to something greater than yourself. So many people live on an emotional roller coaster, constantly rising and falling with the approval, affection, or attention of others. One moment they feel complete, the next they feel empty because their peace is tied to people instead of purpose. But when faith takes root, it changes everything. You begin to understand that even if everyone walks away, you are still secure. You stop trying to control every outcome because you trust that every step, even the painful ones, has purpose. Faith whispers, you are not alone even when silence surrounds you. Faith doesn't mean you won't feel pain. It means pain won't define you. It gives you the strength to feel deeply but stand firmly. You can cry, heal, and still keep walking. Faith builds resilience. It reminds you that rejection isn't the end, that waiting isn't wasting, and that what's meant for you will never miss you. Emotional dependency says, I need them to be okay. Faith says, even if they're gone, I'll still be okay. That mindset shift transforms your entire life. When you place your confidence in people, you're building your peace on unstable ground. People change, circumstances shift, but faith is unmovable. It reminds you that your worth isn't up for negotiation, that your value doesn't rise and fall with someone's opinion. It allows you to love without losing yourself, to give without expecting in return, and to trust without fear. Faith teaches you that fulfillment doesn't come from being chosen by others. It comes from being chosen for purpose. Emotional dependency often grows from emptiness, from trying to fill the void inside with validation outside. But faith fills that void with something eternal. It renews your mind, reminding you that you already have everything you need to be whole. It strengthens your heart to love freely without clinging desperately. You stop begging to be understood or appreciated because faith teaches you that your identity isn't up for debate. The same God who called you worthy doesn't need anyone else to confirm it. When your faith is strong, you learn the beauty of surrender. You stop fighting to control what you can't and start focusing on what you can, your attitude, your response, your peace. You begin to see that sometimes letting go is not losing, but trusting. Faith gives you the courage to release toxic attachments, to walk away from what drains you, and to wait patiently for what's right. You no longer need to manipulate outcomes because you know divine timing is never late. Faith doesn't just protect your heart, it transforms your mindset. It helps you see life through a lens of purpose, not pain. You start understanding that even your disappointments carry direction, that your setbacks are setups, and that every loss carries hidden lessons. When your faith is firm, you stop reacting out of fear and start responding with wisdom. You become emotionally balanced, no longer controlled by others' presence or absence, but by your unwavering belief that everything is working for your good. Faith is the quiet strength that keeps you grounded when emotions try to overwhelm you. It reminds you that your peace is not negotiable, that your joy is not dependent, and that your worth is not conditional. When you walk by faith, you no longer beg for love, attention, or respect. You already have all three within you. Faith makes your mind unshakable and your heart untouchable. And once your faith becomes your foundation, emotional dependency loses its power forever.